Hi Will, it's so good to see you.
It's lovely to see you too, Holly. How are you?
I'm really good. Where in the world are you that you can't be here, you lucky thing?
I'm in the wonderful city of Medellin in Colombia, and it's one of the best places I've ever been in my life.
So I wanted to talk to you obviously about meditation, and we'll get to that bit in a minute, but I wanted to talk to you about you first of all and kind of why you started doing this. And your book, my introduction to meditation was your book, and a friend bought me this. This is my exact book that I read on a beach over Christmas one time and just kind of just was completely sucked in by it all. And the chapter that it begins with is your words, "From hedonism to happiness, my story." So I'm guessing you had to go through the hedonistic bit at the beginning, right?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, like everyone else, I grew up with this idea that the way to feel good about life is just to have the craziest time and, you know, to create all of those stories. And I was always a rebel, and I was always intent on doing new things, very adventurous. And so I got into that hedonistic lifestyle very easily. And my passion was also music, so I found myself in the music industry in the end. And that is basically just a license to have fun every night of the week. So starting at a very young age, I got into the grog, and I did. If I ever write my life story, it will be full of crazy, crazy stories. And I had a talent for partying. But even though I was apparently living the dream, most of the time I didn't feel that good. You know, day to day, I felt tired and I felt drained, especially in my 20s. And I wasn't sleeping so well, and I was quite grumpy, and my moods were up and down. And something just didn't feel right. It didn't feel in any way complete. And I knew that I'd taken it as far as it was possible to go without actually killing myself. And so there was this vacuum in my life. And I'd been curious about all this kind of stuff since my early 20s. Vaguely curious, but not enough to sort of make the switch, because I had this perception that it was about being a monk, about being a really, you know, being a goody two-shoes and living very purely, and that just was never going to be me. But in the end, life forced my hand, and my insomnia got so bad, and I just was permanently fatigued. So I tried lots of other things: hypnotherapy, reflexology, yoga, you know, all the things that I guess people were more aware of back then. None of them worked. And then eventually, actually, whilst I was out partying in Shoreditch one night, I met this super cool dude, and he just somehow persuaded me that I should go and do this thing, and that it wouldn't make me less fun. If anything, it would make me more fun, because I'd have more energy, but it would be a nicer energy rather than a zany energy. So I gave it a whirl, not expecting much, and hey presto, 2 weeks later, insomnia gone, loads more energy, feeling happier, being nicer to people, and being more productive at work. So I actually was able to get more done, but in a way that felt more in harmony with a happy life. So that's how it happened.
So he obviously introduced you to meditation, but there are many, many different types of meditation. So just explain the meditation that you do.
So I do a practice that originates from ancient India. It's about at least 10,000 years old, so it's super, super ancient. And the practice of this one is about the teacher giving you a particular sound or mantra, and you think the sound within your mind very, very gently. And you will find yourself going into these kind of places, these inner worlds, and you feel yourself expanding outwards into something. And whenever you find yourself distracted or flowing off in some little trip, you just bring it back to that little sound, and that keeps you in that zone. And that zone is incredibly powerful and incredibly important for human beings, because when you go to that place, your nervous system is super calm, your brain is highly coherent, and all the different parts of your brain start syncing up and going into what's known as an alpha state. And that is pretty much the most powerful state we know of that a human being can go to. So if you put yourself in that state once or twice a day, your life is going to improve dramatically because your mind, body and nervous system is finding harmony and offsetting all the stresses and strains of life. And I guess what differentiates that particular practice to all the other ones that I've tried is most of the practices in the world come from monastic traditions where you have to invest quite a lot of effort. You know, it's about concentrating loads, it's about using loads of focus and really trying to make something happen, which, if you can do that, is great, but it just feels like a bit of a chore when you're already living a busy life. So I was lucky to find this more effortless approach. It kind of slotted into my life, and hey presto, I'm now a teacher of all things.
Yeah. So I guess for somebody listening to this for the first time, they'd be saying, well, how can one mantra, how can one sound do that? It's just a sound. We talk, we sing, we do this, and we don't feel like that. So what is so special about that mantra? And can you do it without a mantra?
So I guess there's two questions there. The first one is, we, in the modern world, we don't have a particularly good understanding of resonance, okay? And so the sound is the subtlest form of resonance that we can create, particularly if you think a sound rather than say a sound, like singing or chanting or these sorts of things. And the whole universe is actually made up of infinitesimally small vibrations, you know, all these quantum fluctuations throughout the universe. And the subtlety of these sounds, when you use them in a super subtle way, and when you use these particular sounds, which have the properties that they have, they transport your brain and body to those deeper levels, because the resonance wakes something up within your nervous system. It's almost like a key that unlocks something that a regular saying, if I were to just say Holly, 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 I mean, it would probably make me feel good things because I think you're a fantastic person, but it's not going to activate my brain in all of these fantastical ways and immerse me into this super expansive realm. Sometimes it feels infinite. And so the magic of these particular sounds is the ancients of India, they were the masters of sound, more than any other ancient culture I know of. You know, in the Amazon, they were masters of plant medicines and those types of things. And the ancient Indians understood how every single phoneme, which is like a syllable, a sonic syllable, how every single phoneme impacts the brain. And they did create lots of very specific combinations of sounds for very specific things. So if you've got a particular malady in your body, there will be a sound that will, it's almost like a sonic pill, really.
So this, as you say, this is ancient, this is, hundreds of thousands of years old. How is it still relevant to the lives we're living now? Because obviously what we have in our lives, social media, all the busyness of our crazy worlds that we have, they weren't going through that. So how come they've created something that's good for us now?
Well, exactly. The context is different, but the biology is the same. We still have the same brains, the same nervous systems, the same bodies. Their use was more oriented towards spiritual progress. But when I say spiritual, yes, there is that sort of communing with nature and feeling connected with the divine, but it also means being more creative, feeling more joy, feeling more bliss, being more wise, and perceiving more, and having greater clarity within your mind. And so those things are exactly the same. Who doesn't want more joy, more wisdom, more clarity, more calm, more energy, more inspiration? Everybody in the world wants those things. I think what's different is we now have greater need because life is so much faster. Our nervous systems are more activated. The fight or flight part of the brain, known as the amygdala, is way more active in people now than it was back then. And one of the beauties of this knowledge and these techniques is that they calm the nervous system down, and they calm that fight or flight center, the alarm center of your brain down. And so in some ways it has an even more dramatic effect on modern people than it would have done on the ancients.
So this is going to come as a double-parted question here, because I think it's the most common thing that puts people off meditation. And the first one was originally I was like, I don't need something else that's going to come into my life, quite frankly. I've got 3 kids, I live a busy life, I've got my husband, I've got my family. I mean, my plate is full. And when I read the book, I was like, oh my God, he's asking me to sit down for 20 minutes twice a day. That is never going to happen. And I just thought, right, there's no way, this isn't for me, this isn't for me. I've now done it, I've done it for a long time, and as you'll explain more and better than I can, it frees up so much more space in your day, which is weird. I don't know how it does it. But secondly, people are put off it because they go, I can't clear my head. There's no way that I can just sit there. Thoughts keep coming into my head all the time. So it's just, meditation is not for me. I'm not that person.
So I think there's 2 really key things you've touched on there, which is one, the practicality of just not having the time. And then the 2 is the doubt that you're actually going to be able to do it even if you do give it a whirl. So with the time, of course, we're all insanely busy. But that doesn't mean to say that we're effective. And I think, to summarise, meditation makes you effective rather than simply being busy. And the way it does that is by chilling your nervous system out and activating your brain in all of these wonderful ways. First of all, you'll sleep better. So then you'll wake up, you'll have more energy. You might wake up a little bit earlier as well, but feeling revitalised. And so you're making better decisions, you're interacting with people better as well, because when you're in that fight or flight busy mode, literally your prefrontal cortex just becomes super inhibited. And that's where you get your creative functions, what they call your executive functions, and it's where a lot of our human tendencies tend to spring from. Within 3 minutes, maybe 4 of doing this, even if you've got a hyped up busy mind, your nervous system will be as calm as the deepest point in sleep.
I always think, God, now that I do this, I was thinking, oh, I wish I had this earlier in life. Like, I wish I'd found this sooner, especially with what you've just said, because I feel like, there are so many layers and so many different benefits to it. With kids, is it something you could introduce to children? Would it be helpful for them, or is it something you just have to find in your own time at the right time for you?
They tend to become more receptive maybe around the age of 6 or 7. And if they want to do it, I'm super enthusiastic about it. In fact, they tend to be better at it than adults because they don't try and overcomplicate it. Because they're not carrying decades of baggage, literally they fly.
For me, meditation came at a time when I was sort of looking to carve out space and tune inward a little bit, because I think for a while I felt like I was sort of living around here somewhere, just functioning and not really listening into myself. And I found that this has really helped that.
Everyone comes along with a particular motivation, whether that's to try and ease something negative in their life, or maybe it's just a curiosity. Maybe they've heard that big shot executives do it and they want to be a higher performer. And what always ends up happening is they come back to me at some point in the first few months and like, wow, I didn't even realise I was missing this side of myself. But now that I've kind of rediscovered it, I love it and I never want to go back.
I did your course. There are many courses out there, but is that what you would recommend for someone to go and find someone like yourself?
If possible, definitely, because there are a few dynamics when you get taught person to person which just can't be conveyed through a digital platform or YouTube or whatever. I'm able to read people very well and I can understand their little quirks, their little tendencies, and when I'm teaching them, I will just be injecting little ideas which just help them let go of some of the conditioned thinking that they had, which would have sent them running down a blind alley, so that they can fast track their way to making it work. And of course, in our world of instant gratification, people need it to work quickly, otherwise they'll just kind of be a bit half-assed about it. So let's give you that expertise, that quick fast track result, and then you'll carry on doing it for yourself. If this does even 20% of what it says on the tin, your life is going to be way better. And if it gives you what it tends to give most people, then you'll never look back.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the gift of meditation that you've given me. And it's so lovely to see you.
Love you.
Take care. Lots of love.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye. Bye.